Hi, Robert. Good to see you. You had 2 weeks since your last match. Can you talk to us about team news? Is there any players you've been able to get back during that time?
Yeah, we are getting back Ella Morris and Drew Spence as options for the squad, which is really good. So Evelina Sumanen is on grass, but not in collectively training, so she will not play. But the rest of the squad is available, so it's going to be a tough choice tomorrow to pick the squad.
You've had a fortnight to reflect on the Man United performance and result. Obviously disappointed to lose, but pleased with plenty of aspects of that performance.
Yeah, I think when you look at 90 minutes of the game, we're not really happy with the first 45 in a way where they scored an early goal. We don't really are good on the ball in the first half, and we need to defend a lot. I think in the second half we show more energy and you are a little bit more calm on the ball and we create a few chances. Obviously, it's hard to create enough chances to win these games against the big teams, so we need to be very sharp how we get to the chances we get and how we can consider and make sure we have a clean sheet. So I think for the game now, we have had 2 weeks with good training. I think that was good for us to get from the game against Man United to work with the team, with the coaching staff for 2 weeks to make sure we have a good tactics for this game coming up. So it feels like we have 2 good weeks here.
And just finally for me, obviously another tough one away to Arsenal. What have you kind of made of them this season in terms of obviously Jonas leaving and Rene coming in and really taking it on and doing a great job?
Yeah, I think what she have done from when Jonas left was very impressive, to be honest, and they have basically won all the games, and you can tell that the players are performing in a really high level, and I think they have so many different players that they can use in different ways. So they are very good right now, but I also feel like we see stuff in there where we can hurt them and how we need to defend against them, and we have beaten them before, so it's going to be a very cool game to play, and I think we are ready for this experience. Yeah.
Okay, any more in the room? You've passed the mic to Katie, please.
Hi Robert, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Is that working? Cool.
Yeah.
So the North London Derby is a historic event and its roots go beyond just football. Does this add extra pressure for yourself or the team when preparing for a game like this?
I think that these games are the games we want to have like normal games in the future, where we have the big stadiums and a lot of people is coming, and that should be the normal. So I think when we go into these games now, it's still not the majority of the games, so yes, it's not normal, but we are starting to get these games more and more, and I think we're getting used to it, and I think we're also getting used to what we get a taste of what we want to have. So we need to make sure we can take the step now and perform on this big stage and make sure we can prepare ourselves in a good way, because this is the life we want to live. So we are very much looking forward to this game.
And more than 55,000 tickets have been sold for this match. It's predicting to be another incredible turnout. How important is the support of the fans on either side for a derby like this, and what role do you think that the fans will play on Sunday?
I mean, obviously, it's going to be their home pitch, and most of the fans will be their fans. So in one way, it's going to have a big impact on them, that they're going to have that support. But I also know that our fans will come, and I remember last year how I can hear them as well. So it's going to be a massive game for both our fans and their fans. But then I need to, zoom out and see it as a big game for women's football, and make sure we actually collaborate to make sure we grow the women's football. And then if you look at it that way, it's a powerful message to show that we can sell out the stadium between Arsenal and Tottenham and make sure we're going to be performing on that stage, and make sure that we show that the women's football is already here. It shouldn't be in the future, it should be here, and people want to come and watch.
And finally from me, this is the last game before international break, and a number of your players are heading off to their home countries. Does the break pose any challenges for the squad upon return, and if so, how do you limit that impact?
Yeah, it needs to be changed in how we train, because the numbers of players will be so few. But it's a really good thing where we're getting to know the academy players, because we normally bring some of them up, and we normally try to find some kind of indoor friendly game so we can play with the players we have connected to the academy players against a women's team or a college team. I think in that way we have a good plan how we're going to make sure we focus on the players who's staying, so they don't lose 2 weeks because the other one is out playing with the national team. So in one way it's actually quite nice time. You get more close relationships with the players who are staying, and you can work individually with them and have more talks with them. So we try to make sure we give them some really good days, and I think actually it's quite good to have those days as well.
Thank you. Best of luck for Sunday.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move to questions on the online feed. Coming first to Alex.
Afternoon, Robert. I just want to touch on some off-pitch news this week. It came out on Tuesday, I believe. Spurs have been given the green light to build a new women's training academy thing just next to the current ground. Obviously, it's a very long process. It's hardly a short-term thing. But how important is it for the club to be taking these steps?
I think this is more important than finish top 5 or top 4 this year or whatever. I think sometimes we always look at how much do Tottenham invest in the women's team? Are they actually investing? And what's the aim for this season and next season? But I think what Tottenham is doing is to build an organic journey where we look at training facilities. Now we got an approval where we can actually build probably the best training facility in Europe or perhaps in the world for the academy and the women's team. I mean, that's massive, to be honest. And that's a big investment if you compare to other clubs. If you look at what we're doing here to make sure we are one club, we're building it next to the men's training ground, and we might make sure we try to use this space that is connected so much to Tottenham and Anfield. I think that's also quite massive that we show where are we staying and what's the identity for us. So for me, that's brilliant news. And even if it's a few years, I'm not really sure exactly time limit. And if I'm here for that time or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm a part of this journey that we show that we want to make sure that Tottenham Hotspur is a men and women's team that always also want to have the same, experiences and same facilities. And I think that's massive, and that should be big news, to be honest, because that shows what we want to do.
And Bethany England spoke at the meeting about how it's kind of a once in a generation thing, would help bring the best WSL players to Enfield. Does that just reaffirm the club's kind of commitment to winning trophies?
Yeah, I think that shows how Tottenham want to win trophies, how we want to make sure we do some purpose for where we are in London, in North London, and what we want to do for the women's game and what we want to do for the young Lionesses. We want to make sure we educate those players to make sure they become Lionesses. So once again, look at what Tottenham is trying to do for the long run for the women's game. That's impressive, and I think also for being a role model in this country to make sure we invest in the women's and academy as well, because to be honest, it's not too many girls' academies that have the right standards and facilities in this country.
That's all from me. Best of luck on Sunday.
Cheers.
Thanks, Alex. Emily?
Hi, Robert. I hope you're well. You mentioned that it's kind of become normal to play in these big stadiums. I just wondered, is there still the excitement, though, from players, or is that kind of starting to die out and players are getting used to it and just seeing it as normal?
I think it's a mixture of who you are and how many games you have had. I think those players who are in and out the national team and around the top clubs in this country are probably getting used to it and are able to perform very well. I think some players we signed that come from other leagues or perhaps and doesn't play too much in the national team, they are still quite new into this game. So we're still in a phase where we not really are in a normal phase when we play these big games in front of 55, 60,000. And that can still be something that affects the performance and the result in the games. I definitely think Arsenal is getting used to it because they play in front of a lot of people every week. So they are kind of the leaders in the country, if you look at it. But we're getting there, and we take more and more steps, and we have big games at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and when we play away, we have some big games as well. So I just hope it goes quick enough for all clubs that we want to invest and make sure we put money into how to bring the people to the games as well, because it's also where we want to be. And if you always go back and forth between this and 1,500 at another stadium, you never really get the consistency in what you actually can demand on players and journalists and fans and everything. So we are heading in the right direction, and I really love these big games, but I also hope that we can make this journey quicker and make sure everybody helps out, because the games should be at the big stadiums with this fan base that are actually building up right now.
And then I just wanted to ask about Beth England. She's one of the most informed strikers in the league at the minute, but she wasn't called up for England. Are there any concerns over that for you? Were you surprised at that decision at all? And have you talked to Beth about it?
I mean, obviously it's Serena's choice, and she knows what she want to have to her squads. But I think I have a good relationship with Serena. I know how she look at the players, and there's a few players in our squad that she looks at. This time she didn't pick Bethany, but if she keeps having the performances she have had, of course she's going to knock on the door to try to get back into the squad. But I also have enormous respect for the national team coaches that's going to pick and choose players here and there. So I just think she do the right thing. She train hard, she play well, she's a great leader, she brings the energy to the table, and then it's up to Serena to pick and choose the squad. And if she doesn't pick the players, then it's her choice, and we need to respect that.
Thanks, Robert. Good luck for Sunday.
Cheers.
Dan Pentland.
Hey, Robert, hope you're well. How kind of beneficial is it that you've kind of played at the Emirates last season in front of another kind of huge crowd, and you've kind of already had that moment and that experience?
I think everything you do to be good and consistent is if you're getting exposed and used to it. So if you look at the FA Cup final, I think Man United had a benefit that they played the final before and came and played against us, and we were not used to that. That doesn't mean that we're going to win on Sunday, but it helps us, to be honest. And that's what I mean with the big games, and no matter what stadium, and when it's a big fan base, you cannot communicate in the same way. You need to be very much calm in the moment and find ways to communicate, or show signs and everything. So I think it was a good game last year. We actually had a decent performance. We lost 1-0, but it was not a bad performance. But I think this year we're coming into this game with some new personnel in the squad and in the coaching staff, so we need to see it as a new game. But I also want to see how we can address this part of the season, how we can compete with Arsenal, how we can try to dictate the game a little bit more, dictate the ball a little bit more, how we can create a little bit more chances, but still defend with discipline, with the heart and everything, because they are so good. So I'm very curious to the game and see how we can handle it.
Just talking about the defence, obviously Arsenal's goals are kind of spread across the team. I don't think they depend on one or even two main goal scorers. So how do you kind of plan to defend against that?
As a collective, I would say, because if they play Stina Blackstenius as a 9, she's she threats in behind all the time. If Alicia Russo is playing, she's handling the scenario in different ways. They have the wingers who can score in different ways. They have their pivots who can shoot from distance. They have Frida Arnhems who can do. So you cannot just look at, okay, we just need to stop the crosses, or we need to stop this. We need to make sure we are pressing good, that we make sure we keep them from our goals so they don't create those chances. And if they create chances, we need to make sure we block the shots, we take everything we can to defend, and then, but I think the main thing is to make sure we try to have the ball and try to play our style as well, because if we're going to defend in 90 minutes, it's going to be really, really hard, because they have so many good individuals. But collectively, we need to be disciplined, and individually, we need to make sure we have a really good fight.
Brilliant. Thanks, Robert. Best of luck for Sunday. Thank you.
Cheers.
Charlotte.
Robert, I just wanted to push a bit on what Emily asked you about Bethany England. She's joint second top scorer in the WSL. There are players in that squad who have scored the same amount of goals and normally far fewer than her, been to major tournaments. Do you think that Serena England made an oversight, a mistake in not bringing Bethany in?
I mean, these questions should be directed to Serena, of course. I just think that Bethany having a really good form, and she's scoring goals, and she's important for us as a team. I also know how she look at how she plays. They don't play the same way that we do in all occasions, but her choices of picking players, you need to ask her about. But what I see is a player that perform and knocking on the door to come back to the national team. And basically then I'm always going to be respectful for the national team coaches to pick and choose what they want to do.
You're very polite. You must be very proud that Jess Naz keeps getting pulled up.
Yeah, I mean, that's perhaps the other side of the story, that perhaps she haven't been maximum performing in all games, but she getting the trust to get back in the game with the potential and what she brings to the table as well. So that's always the choices you need to take as a coach, and it's the same for me when I pick and choose starting 11 and finishers in the 11s as well. But what Jessica Naz is doing is she's on a journey where she becomes a top national team player soon, but she needs to go through this journey where she has ups and downs, and I think her 1.5 years together with me and the team has been brilliant, not amazing every day, every game, but you can just tell how she improves all the time. And I just love that Serena see that and give her the trust to stay in the national team, because I think that's one of the diamonds in the future for Lionesses.
Thanks so much. Have a good time today.
Cheers.
Chris?
Hi Robert, hope you're well. Obviously the North London derby is absolutely huge for the fans. I just wondered what it meant to you personally, the North London derby, and of course the players, and is there that extra buzz the week before playing this sort of game?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, moved here, I didn't really know how much it means for the fans and how much you compete with Arsenal. But then when you moved here, you realize that that's the big game. And when we won against them last season, I realized the emotions that you get from it together with the fans and the club was massive. Probably one of the best feelings I've had on a football pitch or in a football stadium. So I want to have that again. And when you know that you're going to make so many people happy about it, you want to make sure that you do everything you can to please the fans. On the other hand, we also are aware where Arsenal has been the last 10, 15 years in winning women's game and where we are and where we're trying to do. So we are aware that the fans really want us to win. We are aware that we also need to make sure that we have pretty much a perfect game to win that game. So that's what we're aiming for. But I just love it. I love this rivalry and how you want to make sure that you are best in North London.
Well, do you get that sense from the playing group there a little bit more up for a game like this, especially when it is a big derby?
I mean, I can be honest to say that they are so professional. So every game is extremely important, and we don't really have any different mentality in the group when we do that. But you need to be aware of it because I think it's a bigger game. The fans see it as a really big game. You can tell from media and everyone. So we are aware of it, but I think the professionality of the players are there, so they don't really need to push extra or do something extra because they want to win every week for the club. So, but you are aware that there's a lot of people focusing on this game.
When we've spoken a little bit before about the gap between Spurs and the top three, the Champions League spots. Now, Spurs are currently 6th with 17 points, Arsenal 3rd, 27 points, a 10-point gap. And then there's a 10-point gap between Arsenal and Chelsea, who are league leaders at the moment. Are you surprised by that gap within the top three?
I think the gap is created because Chelsea has been so good. That's not normal, but they have actually been so good. I think when you look at investments, it's different ways of invest. I think Chelsea and Arsenal are investing in the squad right now with money and make sure that they can have this result very quickly. We are investing with money, but not that number, but we invest a lot of money in facilities, technical directors, coaching staff. So in the long run, we know that we're going to close that gap and we're going to compete. But in the short run, we also know that they strengthen their teams with super quality players, which mean that I'm still aware that the gap is there. But that doesn't mean that we cannot win on Sunday. But that's what you need to work with patience, because if you get this training facility, if you get this technical director, if you get more coaching staff, and if you make sure you get the right talent in the squad we have, the future of these players and this club will be amazing. And then they can keep adding money and buying players, but when we develop our own players and we are powerful in that way, we're going to be successful.
Best of luck. Thank you, Robert.
Cheers.
Okay, and we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.